The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harrogate again, everybody. Now, we see a lot of war memorials on this channel, don't we? Here's one, which is in the churchyard in this particular parish. However, that wasn't here a few years ago. It was somewhere else, somewhere we've actually covered. Let's find out where it was and how it ended up here. This is the parish of MOOR MONKTON. MOOR MONKTON, Monk's Farm on the moor. Alright, today in Harrogate we're moving further along the A59 to the east towards York. The village we're covering today can be split into at least two pieces, one on the A59 itself and the other about 3/4 of a mile away on a dead-end lane off it. Between the two extremes is the parish church, which sits all on its own, surrounded by the countryside. This is MOOR MONKTON, situated on the River Nidd, some 7 miles northwest of York. It was mentioned in the Domesday Book as a small hamlet belonging to Richard, the son of Herfast. In the 13th century, the manor was owned by the Uhtred family. Since then, it's also been owned by the Nevilles and the Earls of Salisbury, before eventually coming into the hands of the Slingsby family in 1560. The original seat for the manor was Reed House, situated to the west of the village. It was a moated building, crenellated in the 14th century by Sir Thomas Uhtred. Its modern counterpart, known today as Red House, was built in around 1607 to replace the old one. The prefix "moor" was added to the name Monkton to distinguish it from Nun Monkton, which is on the other side of the Nidd. Monkton, which has been recorded variously as Munchatton, Monkton Super Moorum, and Monkerton, literally means the town or farm of the monks. The village is one of the waypoints on the 44-mile-long walk that covers the old boundaries of the Ainsty. Now, we won't be doing a lot of walking here, but after having a look at MOOR MONKTON, it's easy to see why plenty of people like that Ainsty Bounds walk. Come with me through the village and let's discover its secrets. MOOR MONKTON has a rather strange layout. It can be split into 3, 4 or maybe even 5 distinct areas. 2 main residential clusters, the Red House estate, the site of a railway station and the site of the church. One of the residential clusters is on the A59, which passes through the parish on its way to York. In doing so, if it weren't for road signs, you'd likely never know that the majority of MOOR MONKTON actually lies 1.5 miles to the north of this road, at the end of a long spur which reaches its conclusion just to the south of the River Nidd. The spur is called Church Lane because halfway along it is the Church of All Saints. However, before you reach that, there's another road off to the right, and that leads to the Red House estate. The Red House estate is at the end of a second no-through road. In manorial times, MOOR MONKTON was controlled by Reed House. It was a moated building not too dissimilar from others in the area, and it was crenellated in the 14th century by Sir Thomas Uhtred. His family had held MOOR MONKTON since the 13th century. Its modern counterpart, known today as Red House, was built in around 1607 and stands about 50 metres to the south of the old house. Now, the history of Red or Reed House is long and complicated, and this road leading to it all is private. Luckily for us, there's a brilliant website out there that tells you everything about it. Here's a summary of its history. Reed House was probably named after actual reeds used to thatch its roof. Although linked to MOOR MONKTON now, it was originally the manor house for Scagglethorpe. In 1560, Francis Slingsby of Scriven bought the manor. 14 years later, he enclosed Scagglethorpe Moor, which meant the building of fences and ditches to prevent his own livestock getting out, and likewise stock from neighbouring Poppleton getting in. In 1581, his oldest son, Thomas, drowned in the River Nidd, meaning his oldest surviving son, Sir Henry, would inherit Reed House. By this time, the original property was probably in a state of decay, and Sir Henry took steps to deal with this. His first act was, in around 1600, to build a chapel, and 7 years later, he'd had Reed House completely rebuilt, about 80 yards away from the original. It was renamed Red House. The original moated site, the chapel and the walled gardens to the south and east of the house are all still on the estate today. Scagglethorpe as a village no longer exists. It was already declining in the 1500s, and by 1786 there were only 2 houses. Only one house and a few small field enclosures exist now. The Slingsbys purchased, bit by bit, many of the leases on the neighbouring manor of MOOR MONKTON. Eventually, Red House became the administrative centre of the entire area between the Nidd and what is now the A59. Royalty was no stranger to Red House. King James I is known to have stayed there for a start, and in 1633, Charles I also visited on his way to Scotland. During his stay, he attended York races on Hob Moor in Acombe and watched Sir Henry Slingsby's horse win the plate. When the horse died, a statue was made and it was buried on the mound within the original moated site. The statue still remains on the estate today, but now it's located by the chapel door, having been moved in 1918. In 1634, perhaps the most famous resident of Red House inherited the property, Sir Henry Slingsby II. He served, like his father before him, as the MP for Knaresborough. He wasn't a very active MP, but then again, name me one who is. He preferred to spend time at Red House instead. There are 2 reasons why he's so famous. Firstly, he wrote a diary which still exists and provides us with a fascinating insight into estate life in the 17th century. It's filled with the goings-on at Red House. The second reason for his fame is that he lived during the Civil War, and he was a supporter of the king. Despite being vehemently anti-war, he was involved in providing protection for the king when he stayed in York during the troubled times. As such, he was put in charge of the defences of the city during the siege by Sir Thomas Fairfax in 1644. That means, in a roundabout way, he contributed to the bloodiest battle on English soil, the Battle of Marston Moor. It's not clear if he was at the battle in person, but certainly his regiment remained in York during the event. After the war, Henry continued to support the monarchy and he refused to renounce his allegiance to the king. His estates, including Red House, were confiscated by the Commonwealth. In 1651, 3 friendly trustees bought them back for him to make sure they passed to his children. He spent a lot of time in hiding at Red House, but he was eventually caught. He was taken to the Tower of London in 1658 and executed. That made him the last ever royalist to meet the grisly fate. Red House became the Slingsby family's hunting base with its deer park and extensive stables. By 1815, the family no longer lived there, and the house was rented, much like their other properties around MOOR MONKTON. The estate was closely linked to the York and Ainsty Hunt, with 1 or 2 meets being held at Red House every season. Riding was also of great importance here. That makes sense, the stables were already there, and the country around Red House provided excellent bridleways. In 1916, the estate and all the surrounding farms and houses of MOOR MONKTON were sold by the Slingsbys. The sale took place in the Station Hotel in York. Charles Lempriere bought Red House and some adjoining land for £2,600. He'd previously been running the Carteret School in Harrogate. He needed more spacious accommodation for his growing pupil numbers and also a rural setting to carry out his new educational ideas for a prep school. Red House was perfect. He felt that as well as an academic education, running a business should also be on the school curriculum. At Red House, he set up a small farm producing eggs and milk, which was sold by the boys to the school. Right up to the 1960s, Lempriere's ideas were still maintained. However, this situation was not to last. Changes in the private education system meant that senior schools opened up junior houses, and soon it became difficult for prep schools to find places for the leavers. Boarding fell out of fashion, and due to its isolated location, Red House found it hard to attract day pupils, even with an extensive fleet of minibuses. By 2001, pupil numbers were so depleted that closure was unavoidable. In a bid to keep the estate in the family, a business plan was drawn up that played on the strengths of what Red House already had to offer: fantastic riding country and a beautiful place to live or go on holiday. It now has a tenanted property and 4 others available for self-catering holidays. It's also got a caravan site. The stables are still there too, and they provide riding in the same way as they always have. And of course, the countryside is no different either. It's still as lush and green as it ever was. Yeah, we've covered a lot already and we haven't even seen any proper landmarks yet. Well, here we are. This is the church, which stands all on its own between MOOR MONKTON village and the Red House estate. Here we go. There's the building. Let's go through these gates and check it out. This is the Church of All Saints, which dates in part from the 12th century. From this period survives some of the stonework, the two south doorways, two windows in the north wall, and the lower part of the chancel arch. The church was largely rebuilt in 1638 by Sir Henry Slingsby, who added a brick tower. In 1879, the church was heavily restored by James Fowler, who replaced the tower and removed most of the furnishings and stained glass. It was he who probably added the chancel's east window and one at the south of the nave. All Saints is built of sandstone and gritstone with a tile roof. The nave is of 4 bays and the chancel of 3. The tower has 3 stages and full-height buttresses. Built into the porch is a slab which depicts the head and feet of a priest. Inside there's a small figure with a missing head and an 18th century memorial showing a figure on a bier. The church was Grade 2 listed in 1966. Lying a mile south of the rest of MOOR MONKTON village, it was lit only by candles, oil and gas lamps until as late as 2009, when it was finally connected to the national grid. That must surely make it one of the last churches in the country to do so. In the churchyard is a memorial which commemorates a Lancaster bomber crash during World War II. This one has an interesting tale behind it, rather unlike any crash memorial we've ever seen. A long time ago, when we were covering Doncaster, we visited a place called Edlington. On Saturday, the 23rd of September 2023, the Deputy Mayor and the Clerk of Edlington Town Council travelled to MOOR MONKTON to attend this memorial's rededication. That's because originally it was sited in Edlington, as it was believed that the crew of the Lancaster bomber W4904 perished there on the 28th of September 1943. Until recently, the crash location was thought to have been Cock Hill, near Old Edlington, and so the memorial was put there. However, thanks to the consistently excellent research of Rich Allenby, the actual location was proven instead to be here, in MOOR MONKTON. The plane came down in a field close to the village. Both the Deputy Mayor and the Clerk met residents of MOOR MONKTON who remembered the plane crashing, and also met members of the family whose field the Lancaster had crashed in. Yeah, definitely an interesting tale behind that memorial, isn't there? I wonder whether or not we actually saw that in Edlington when we covered Edlington a few years ago. Considering that was moved in 2023 and I'd finished Doncaster before then, we might have actually caught that before. I don't know, without having to go back through my videos and actually look and see. Maybe that's something you guys can do. Did we see that in Edlington? Let me know. Anyway, let's head off to MOOR MONKTON village now. So here we are in MOOR MONKTON village. It's at the very end of that long spur off the A59, and it almost bends around back on itself at its easternmost point. In terms of length, it's no more than 1/4 of a mile from end to end. Let's walk that 1/4 of a mile and see what it has. MOOR MONKTON is first mentioned in the Domesday Book as a small settlement belonging to Richard, son of Herfast. Herfast was a Norman who arrived in England in 1066 with William the Conqueror and later became the first Lord Chancellor of England. The name Monkton means the farm of the monks. Originally known simply as Monkton, Moor was added in various incarnations and spellings of the name in the 1400s. It was done to distinguish it from Nun Monkton, which is on the other side of the River Nidd. Quite a few notable people have lived here down the years. Of course, the Slingsbys can be included in that number, and so too can Cyril Lempriere. However, they're also joined by several others. One of them was James Hampton. He was an 18th century cleric and writer, known as the translator of the ancient Greek historian Polybius. Another would be the Venerable Henry Walker Yeoman, who was Archdeacon of Cleveland from 1882 until his death. He was Vicar of Marske by the Sea from 1840 to 1850 and Rector of MOOR MONKTON from 1850 until 1870. The one that stood out to me though was John Shepherd. He was a 4-time British Classic winning jockey and trainer. A pioneering northern jockey, he was one of the few of his time to move south to Newmarket and gain a reputation there. The modern MOOR MONKTON villager is likely to be either a commuter or a retiree now. Ideally placed between York and Wetherby, and at the end of that long lane, the tranquility of the Yorkshire countryside is almost guaranteed out here. It's easily one of the best villages around here for walks too. Passing through the village is the 44-mile long Ainstey Bounds Walk. Moor Monkton is one of the waypoints on the route. The entire thing is a captivating journey through the scenic landscapes of North Yorkshire, and I'd be happy to suggest Moor Monkton is among the best. It doesn't have many landmarks other than its church, but I found a couple among these lovely rural properties. This here is an old chapel which is a house now. Now I'm not going to lie to you, it seems that chapel histories in North Yorkshire are hard to come by. Not for the first time, I've drawn a blank up here in that regard. I did find some potentially unreliable sources though, which gave me a construction date of 1874. As I suspected upon arriving here, that was not right. Well, this old chapel is a prime example of how the internet can't tell you everything. I found nothing about this before I came here, not even a date of construction or whether it was primitive or Wesleyan. Both of those questions, though, are answered by way of the lintel above its door. This was a Wesleyan chapel and it was built in 1896. This is the village hall, which is officially known as the Old Schoolroom. It was bequeathed to the people of the parish of Moor Monkton in the first half of the last century. For many years it saw valuable service and a dedicated team laboured to maintain the hall in a usable condition. In the 1990s, however, the building gradually became less inviting as damp, cold and subsidence took their toll on the old building. In 1997, the Millennium Committee was formed with the express intention of doing something substantial for the village in the year 2000. The need for a modern village hall was identified, and after looking at various options, it was decided by a vote of parishioners to refurbish the old schoolroom. In 1999, the village was awarded a lottery grant to achieve this. The refurbishment work was completed in December of the same year. The new hall is light, airy, dry and above all, warm. It's well equipped with a fully fitted kitchen and a second floor meeting room. The Schoolroom Committee, under the auspices of the Richard K. Charity and the Moor Monkton Village Association, organise regular fundraising events to help maintain the building. One thing Moor Monkton lacks is a pub, although there is a regular pop-up pub called the Merry Monk that opens for business on the last Friday of every month and for other festive occasions. During the colder months, the venue is the old schoolroom, whilst in the summer the pub often appears in local gardens and takes on a role associated with picnics and barbecues. The last landmark is the old telephone box. When BT decommissioned this, the opportunity arose for the village to purchase the structure. After extensive and careful refurbishment, it now acts as a bookshare facility for the avid readers of Moor Monkton. It also contains a map of the village area to help local delivery drivers and, of course, other visitors, like me. So after walking along the main street, if you fancy continuing your walk, you can, because there's a path that goes to Topwith from here. It's 4.5 miles away. So if you fancy a morning stroll, which will take you to one of the biggest villages in this particular part of Harrogate, well, you can if you live in Moor Monkton, or even if you don't. We're done with the main village though, but we're not quite done with this episode. We have one more thing still to cover, and it's on the southern side now of the A59. South of the village and of the A59 there's one final area to cover. This is Marston Moor, which contains an old railway station that used to serve the villages of Moor Monkton and Long Marston. It did so from 1848 to 1967. The station was opened as Marston by the East and West Yorkshire Junction Railway. On an OS map of 1850, the station was called Marston and Monkston Station, although Monkston was never a part of the official name, and of course it's Monkton, not Monkston anyway. The station was situated just to the west of a level crossing on Marston Lane. Goods facilities were located on both sides and were entered from the west. Behind the south platform was a siding that served a loading dock and a coal depot. Goods handled at the station were hay, clover, coal and livestock. Although it remained open during World War I, it eventually closed in August 1958 to passengers before goods traffic ceased on the 3rd of May 1965. Parcel services ceased in 1967, signalling the end of the station's functionality. Speaking of signals, the signal box is still here, and it's a Grade 2 listed building. That will do us for Moor Monkton, everybody. What a fascinating place that was. It's one of those villages that seems pretty nondescript on the map, but dig a bit deeper and you end up with lots to get stuck into. There's no such mystery around the next one. Get ready for the parish that during the Civil War saw the bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.